Hi everybody, this is Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and I have something very special for you today. It's actually an older pattern that was originally published in my book, Cable Crochet Made Easy. This is the book that has the complete video tutorials included with the written patterns. And the pattern I'm about to show you is also available as a PDF download should you just want the single pattern and not the book. I just want to make that clear at the beginning. But let me show you first of all, what we have here. I'm going to show you a few examples of this particular shawl or a scarf. This is made using nurturing fibers, lace weight wool, and this is made with 1 hank of that. Now, one thing that's fun about this pattern is you can use any yarn that you wish. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples. All you need to do is upsize your hook. You can make this as large or as small as you wish simply by limiting the number of repeats of the established pattern. Okay, that's one example. Here's another example, and this is using kind of a rayon tencel blend of yarn. It's kind of nice for the summery months since it kind of has a lot of properties that cotton would have. So I just want to show you, this is another example of what you can do with the very same pattern. And I've really enjoyed experimenting with other fabrics as well, other fibers. This is made using 100% baby alpaca. Gives it a very different feel, a very different texture. And here's even another example. You can tell I like this pattern, and I've made many different examples. I didn't add the finishing edging to this one, but this is 100% mohair. And I think this is actually one of my favorites. It's almost like crocheting with cotton candy. Such a delight. It's just that when you're working with fibers such as this, you have to be sure that you understand the stitches beforehand because you don't want to try to rip out very highly fuzzy yarn like this. Well, for today's demonstration, I even changed it up a little bit more, and I used 2 different colors of sock weight or fingering weight yarn. I'm going to share that to you in just a minute, just to show you what you can do and how you can switch this up with your designs. So it's one of these patterns where you are in charge, you're the designer, you make it as big or as small as you like, and have fun picking colors. Just make sure that you upsize or downsize the hook to match your yarn. Well, let me go ahead and show you what I used and how to make this particular design. For this project, I'm going to be using 2 yarns that I've had in my stash. Both of these are hand dyed. Now, you don't have to use the exact size yarn that I'm using, but I just wanted to show you what I'm using so that people will know. And the first of which is Emma's yarn. This is, again, hand dyed, 100% superwash merino wool. This hank has 438 yards or 100 grams, and this colorway is called 80s Rewind. And the solid colored yarn here is Bliss by Lydia Yarn. I don't know that these are available any longer, but if you have any other kind of weight yarn like this, it should be fine. This is superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, and I have approximately 400 yards of this yarn. So we're going to combine these 2. I will also add that you can make these scarves or shawls in a 1 color, solid color, or you can use multiple colors. So I'm going to be using just 2 for this demonstration, and we'll be changing colors every so often. But if you're using solid color, you just disregard the color changes. I also recommend that you have a crochet hook size G or 6 or 4.00 millimeter. That is if you're going to be working with this type of yarn. If you're going to be using thicker yarn, of course, you're going to need to upsize your hook. And as always, I recommend that you have a yarn needle and a pair of sharp scissors handy. So let's begin. I'm going to begin with a slip knot, and please notice that I'm using the colorful yarn that changes colors throughout for the beginning of this and for what is mostly the double crochet sections of this particular project. After my slip knot, I'm going to chain 4, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch to that first stitch to form a small ring. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then working into the center, if you can see that, the center of the ring made with the 4 chains, I'm going to work 9 double crochets. And I do this by working right into the center. And you'll also notice that I am crocheting on top of the extra strand as I go, and that will just help me to have one less strand to hide as I finish this project. After completing row 1, you should have 9 double crochets plus the turning chain, and the turning chain does count as a stitch in this written pattern. So go ahead and count that, so that would make 10 double crochets. Again, 9 double crochets plus the turning chain equals 10. So we're going to turn. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to work a double crochet in that very first stitch, and this counts as an increase. And then 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. That's 1, 2, and 3. And in the next stitch, we're going to work a corner. And the way we work our corners is going to be the same throughout this project. And that is worked in the same stitch. We're going to work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then work 2 more double crochets worked in that very same stitch. Let me pause and show you what that looks like. So you see 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in that same stitch. And now we work a double crochet in each stitch remaining. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as we come to the last stitch, we're going to work 2 double crochets. I'm just going to work them in that chain 3 space. You can work them in the top of the chain 3 if you wish. It's however you'd like to do it. And this is what you have at the end. And yes, the number of stitches is going to be 1 more on this side than the other. I understand that. But what's going to happen as we go forward is we're going to be adding 2 stitches at the end of our rows and the turning chains, and we're going to be adding 1 at the beginning of the rows. Of course, the beginning and end of the rows are going to switch from side to side as we work each row, and thereby adding increases here, here, and also in the turning or in the corner where we add the 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. We'll also be increasing there, and this is how the shawl grows. So we're going to go ahead and turn. And for row 3, chain 3, double crochet in that first stitch. Again, this constitutes another increase. And then we're going to work 1 double crochet in each stitch until we get to the chain 2 corner. Okay, just a couple more stitches here. Okay, so now we've come to the corner or the chain 2 space, and we do another corner or 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets. And then we double crochet in each stitch until we get to that turning chain. And then we'll be adding 2 stitches there. Let me go ahead and get to that point. I am going a little on the fast side. I apologize, but if you need to know some of the basic stitches like the double crochet, you can check out my channel, and I'll put a link in the video description below for these stitches. Okay, so I've worked 2 double crochets in that turning chain, And this is what you should have so far. Now for row 4, it's basically a repeat of what we've done on row number 3 and in row number 2. We're going to chain 3, double crochet in that first stitch, and in each stitch until we get to the chain 2 corner space. And again, once we get to the chain 2 corner, we're going to work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets right there in that same chain 2 space, and then double crochet in each stitch until you get to the turning chain. Now once we get to the turning chain, we're going to work 2 double crochets. I'm going to work the first one, and then with the second one we have a color change, so we work half of that double crochet, and now I'm going to bring in the new yarn before completing that last stitch, just like that. And now we're ready to, I'm going to chain 3 before I turn, but before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this color change. I'm going to put the hook down. I'm going to clip the color changing yarn right there, and I'm going to tie a very loose knot with these color changes. I'm not going to tie it real tight right now until I decide what I'm going to do, and I'll show you how to deal with this towards the end. Okay, I'm just going to tie that really loosely there. Okay, so now that we've turned, we're ready to begin a new stitch, and we have a new color. So this is going to be the arrow stitch. This is starting with row number 5. We're going to work a double crochet in that first stitch. Now to begin the arrow stitch, I'm going to double wrap the hook for a treble crochet. We're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then that 4th stitch we're going to work a treble crochet. Now working behind that stitch, that treble crochet, we're going to double crochet in each of the stitches that we skipped. It's 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do that 2 more times. Skip the next 3 stitches that we haven't used, 1, 2, 3, and in that next stitch, treble crochet. Working behind that treble crochet, double crochet in those 3 stitches that we just skipped. There we go. And we're going to do that again. 1, 2, 3, skip stitches, and that next stitch, we're going to work a treble crochet. Working behind that treble, we're going to double crochet in each of those 3 stitches that we skipped. Okay, now we're going to double crochet in the next stitch, and we come to a corner. Again, we know what to do. We just continue with the 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets. Now we want to make sure that both sides are symmetrical. So we had 1 double crochet here before the chain 2, the 4-stitch corner here. And so let's go ahead and put a double crochet there, and then we return to our arrow stitch. 1, 2, 3 skipped stitches, treble crochet in that next stitch. Working behind the treble crochet, we're going to double crochet in each of those stitches that were skipped. Skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and treble crochet in the next stitch, working behind them. Double crochet in those 3 stitches that we just skipped.
Okay, this next one might be a little bit tricky. Skip 3 stitches, and working in the turning chain, we're going to work a treble crochet, working behind that treble crochet, go ahead and work double crochets in each of those skipped stitches, and then a double crochet in that turning chain once again. And since we've already worked the treble crochet there, we've gotten our 2 stitches out of that turning chain. So this is what you should have. Now we're going to work row 2 of the arrow stitch, and then this will actually look like an arrow stitch. Chain 3, double crochet in that first stitch, and then working the arrow stitch, skip the next 3 stitches, treble crochet in the next stitch, which should also be where that last treble crochet was worked. Now working in front of the treble crochet, we're going to double crochet in each of those skipped stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to do that all the way across. Skip the next 3 stitches, treble crochet in that next stitch, working in front of the treble crochet, double crochet in each of those skipped stitches. Make sure you go through both of the top loops as you work those double crochets. Skip 3, treble crochet in that next stitch, which is also a treble crochet from the last row, and then double crochet as you work in front of that treble crochet. All right, so now we just work these next 3 stitches as just straight double crochets, and then we come to a corner, and that's where you work your 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. And to make this symmetrical to the other side, and let me just pause here for a minute, because as you work this stitch in other rows that are going to be coming down the pike here, you're going to have many more arrows on each side, obviously. And let me go ahead and take a look. And you can see how the arrows are forming here. They're so pretty. I love this stitch so much. And yes, you're going to have holes here. That's just part of the open work and the nature of this particular stitch. But as we work this further on into the project, you're going to have different numbers here on these extra stitches. So don't worry about that if that number varies a bit as you get to this part. Just make sure that the number that you have on this side matches the number that you have on the other side in the front, since this is the part that's probably going to be seen the most. Okay, so now we're just going to double crochet in those 3 stitches that are just double crochets. And now we return back to working the arrow stitch, where you skip 3 stitches, treble crochet in that next stitch, and work double crochets in each of the stitches that you just skipped. So go ahead and continue working this, and I'll meet you at the end of the row. We come to that last double crochet and work a double crochet there, and then work 2 double crochets in that chain 3 turning chain. Let's turn, see what we have. You can see how beautiful this texture is going to be, especially against this multicolor. I think I kind of like that. All right, so now we're ready to change our yarn color. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to back out the hook from one of these stitches. So this again is the last stitch, the second stitch that was crocheted into the turning chain, and I'm going to go back to the solid color, which is right here. I'm sorry, this is the color changing yarn that we're changing to. So I'm going to chain 3, and before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and trim this yarn. Let's see, which yarn do I want to trim? Okay, yeah, trimming the colored, the solid color yarn. And I'm going to put a new slot. Okay, make a loose knot. There we go. And we're going to turn. And now what we are going to do is we are going to repeat row number 3 a total of 4 times, and that is where we work the double crochet in that first stitch, and then each stitch across until we get to the chain 2 corner. Once we get to the chain 2 corner, we work 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in this spot, and then double crochet all the way, 1 double crochet in each stitch, and then when we get to the chain 3, we're going to work 2 double crochets there, and then turn, and then repeat again. So go ahead and repeat row 3 4 more times. I'm about to complete the last stitch of row 10, but before I do, I'm going to go ahead and work a color change, and I'm going to go back to my solid color. And again, if you're not using more than 1 color, you don't have to worry about this. I'm going to go ahead and chain 3 and then turn and show you what I have after completing 10 rows. And I'm going to go ahead and take care of this other yarn and secure it. This just makes me feel better inside. I don't think that the stitches are going to come out on their own, but you never know. So I just like to kind of secure it just in a small way there. All right, so now we're ready to begin one of my favorite stitches called the Celtic Weave. And if you need additional stitch support on that, again, please check the video description below. I'll have a playlist of videos that you can refer to should you have need. We're going to go ahead and work a double crochet in that first stitch. After working that first double crochet, we're going to begin working front post treble crochet. So I'm going to wrap my hook twice. I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of these last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped, these 2. Make sure you don't work that stitch on the end because we've already worked in that one. That's 1. And 2. And we're going to work that all the way to the corner. Skip the next 2 stitches. Front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of those last 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. And we're going to just do that again. One more time, I'll show this to you. Skip the next 2. Front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of those last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, just like that. So go ahead and work that a total of 7 times, I believe, for the first side of this scarf. So after having worked 7 of these Celtic Weave crosses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you should have about 3 stitches left until that chain 2 corner. So we're going to go ahead and work double crochets in those 3 stitches. Now if you have more or fewer, it's okay. This is not gonna, it's not going to be a deal breaker for this particular project, but you should have 3 according to the stitch count of the pattern. And then we get to the chain 2, and we're going to work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Now, in order to keep this symmetrical on both sides, we had worked 3 double crochets before the corner, so let's work 3 double crochets after the corner. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to continue on with our Celtic weave. Skip 2 stitches. We're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those last 2 stitches. We're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. And we're just going to continue that across this side. Skip 2 and then front post treble in the next 2 stitches, etc. So go ahead and work this until you get to the end of the row. I'm going to make a slight adjustment here since we have 3 stitches left, and I want to go ahead and complete a Celtic weave over the last 3 stitches. So I'm going to work 2 front post treble over the same stitch to try to make this work out better for you. Okay, and we're working in front of those last 2 stitches. We're going to work front post treble in those 2 stitches that we skipped. And we get to the turning chain, we work 2 stitches, 2 double crochets. Okay, so now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to turn, and we're going to work double crochets in that first stitch and in that next double crochet. And so now we're going to work, which is essentially row 2 of the Celtic weave. And it's very important when you work this that you start with a back post treble crochet over the first 2 stitches of this weave. It's a little different because we started this way. Okay, so after working those 2 back post trebles, we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and the next 2 stitches, which are right here, we're going to work back post treble crochets over these. Now working in front of these as seen from the front side, which means the stitches will be this way, we're going to come around through the back, and we're going to work, if I can show you this, we're going to work back post treble over these 2 stitches that we skipped. Just like that. And we're going to do that across. Skip the next 2 stitches and the 2 stitches here, and these are going to be 2 stitches that are on top, that crossed on top during that last row. And we work back post treble crochets over those. And now working in front of these stitches as seen from the front side, let me show you, we're going to actually work this stitch and then the stitch beside it. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like with the back side facing. This is just a slightly different angle than I usually film this, but I hope this is helpful. Let me try that again since the stitches got away from me. Alright, so I'm going to do that again because I know this is tricky. Skip the next 2 stitches here, and then the next 2 that we're going to back post treble around are these 2. And working in front of these 2 stitches as seen from the front side, so that we work this stitch next, and then this stitch. And I'll show you the stitches that we just worked were this stitch and this stitch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and work that across. Let me work this last cross with you because this is part of the Celtic Weave, but these two stitches are not, but we're going to pull them in to the Celtic Weave because we're going to be growing this section anyway as we go. So we work those two back post trebles over those two stitches, and then back post treble crochet over those two stitches we skipped. And then we're going to double crochet in the 3 remaining stitches. 1, 2, 3, and then we get to the chain 2 corner and go ahead and work those 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. And then as you get to the next side of the scarf or shawl, go ahead and work 3 double crochets. I do believe that there is an error in the written pattern in the original book, so it may have said 2 stitches. It really is not that important, really. What we're going to essentially be doing is filling in the extra stitches here with double crochets, like I've said before. But in case it says 2 and you had 3 stitches, by all means, crochet double crochets in those 3 stitches. And then now we're going to begin the Celtic Weave here. We're going to skip these 2 stitches, back post treble in those next 2 stitches, and working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to back post treble around those 2 stitches. We're starting to include this into the Celtic Weave since we're going to be growing this section in the Celtic Weave as the stitches are added with the next couple of rounds, or rows rather. Okay, so I'm going to just continue working this Celtic Weave from the back side all the way, and I'll show you the turning chain. At the end of this row, we're going to work the next 2 stitches are going to be back post trebles. This is without skipping any stitches. And then we're going to work a double crochet in that next double crochet, and then 2 more double crochets in the turning chain. Okay, let's turn and see what we have. So you can see a lot of nice, lovely texture being added in. And I really like the way this color stands out against the multicolor. All right. Now we're ready to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to work another round of Celtic Weave. So after that chain 3, as we begin row 13, we're going to work a double crochet in that first stitch and in the next 2 stitches. 1, 2, and then now we're going to begin the Celtic Weave. We're going to skip 2 stitches, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of these last 2 stitches. We're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped, and we're going to do this all the way until we reach the stitches near the chain 2 corner. I'm going to skip 2, front post treble in the next 2, working in front of those 2 stitches. Now this is where I make it a little bit different for you. I'm going to front post treble in these 2 stitches, and they are hidden behind these other stitches, so you need to make sure that you're using the tall man and your thumbkin here, those nerve endings, to find where these stitches are, and there it is right there. And in the next stitch. And again, I'm using these 2 fingers, or my finger and my thumb, to navigate where these stitches are. Let me go ahead and I'll do this again for you. Skip the next 2 stitches, which are these 2 hidden stitches here. and then front post treble in these 2 stitches that are on top. And then working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in these 2 hidden stitches, so make sure that you find those adequately. And do those 2 front post trebles. So go ahead and work that to the chain 2 corner. I am now nearing the corner, but let me show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to skip these 2 stitches, and I'm going to bring in these next 2 double crochets and have them join the Celtic Weave pattern. We're working front post trebles there, and then working in front of those, I'm going to do the 2 hidden stitches that I skipped, just like that, and then work double crochets in the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then our chain 2 corner, which is the 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. Now, in order to make this side symmetrical, I'm going to double crochet in the first 3 double crochets, and now I'm going to bring in these 2 double crochets as part of the Celtic Weave by skipping the next 2 stitches, front post treble in those next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped, just like that, and then continuing the skip 2 front post treble in the next 2 Celtic Weave stitch. I'm going to continue that all the way until I get to the turning chain. So after coming to the near the end of this row, we're just going to work double crochets in those last 2 stitches, and then 2 double crochets in the turning chain. Okay. So now we're ready to go to row 14 of this scarf. Let's go ahead and chain 3, and we're going to work our double crochets in the first 2 stitches, and we're going to skip the next 2. You can just double crochet in these if you wish, but I'm going to just go ahead and pull these 2 stitches into the Celtic Weave as such, and working in front of those 2 stitches, go ahead and back post treble over those 2 stitches that we skipped, and just continue working skip 2, back post treble in the next 2, and then working in front of those 2 stitches as seen from the front side, and we work those 2 back post trebles in those 2 stitches that we skipped. So go ahead and work that all the way to where the corner of the project is, and then I will show you what to do from there. I'm going to show this corner once again because I know this can be confusing. I'm going to skip these 2 stitches, and then I'm going to bring in these 2 double crochets to make them part of the Celtic Weave now. And then working in front of those as seen from with the front side facing, I'm going to back post, treble crochet, just like that to make them apart. And then from this point, I'm going to double crochet in the remaining double crochets. That's 2, 3, and then in that chain 2 space, I'm going to work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets. Now in order to make this side symmetrical, I will work 3 double crochets. Now let me just restate again that going forward, when you do the additional repeats, that you may have more stitches here, you may have less, but you know, you just want to keep this Celtic weave going, or whatever stitch that you're working on here. So skip 2, back post, treble, and the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, we're going to back post, treble in those 2 stitches that we just skipped. And let's try that again since the strand got away from me. There we go. It's easy to do when you're working with the camera in front of you and trying to keep an eye on everything. There we go. All right, so back to normal. So now we just continued the Celtic weave with the skip 2, back post, treble, and then etc. So go ahead and I will meet you at the end of this row. I'll go ahead and work the end of this row with you. Skip 2, and we're going to work back post trebles over those next 2 double crochets. And working in front of those as seen from the front side, we're going to back post treble in those Celtic weave stitches. And then we're going to double crochet in that last double crochet, and then 2 double crochets in that turning chain. Now before we complete this last stitch, it is time for us to return to our contrasting color, which is our color changing yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go ahead and secure this, and then we'll start the next rows. So now for rows 15 through 18, it's going to be a repeat of row number 3, which would be chain 3, double crochet in that first stitch, and in each stitch across. And of course, you know, once you get to the chain 2, you're going to work 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then 1 stitch in each stitch across on the other side, and then end with 2 double crochets in the turning chain and turn. Go ahead and work 4 rows like this. This would be again rows 15, 16, 17, and row 18. Okay, this is what I have after completing those next 4 rows of those double crochets. Now from this point on, you know how to do the stitches to complete this. So what's going to happen at this point is we're going to repeat the arrow rows, and then the rows with the double crochets, and then the Celtic weave, and then double crochets. And you can repeat this as often and as many times as you would like. So I'm just going to continue to do this until I literally run out of a particular yarn color, or at least until I have enough so that I can finish, because I want to finish with the Aqua Girl color here and with the shell with the Picot trim. That's what I'm going to end this on eventually. And there's also going to be a perimeter round that goes along with that. But so if you need stitch support and you want to go back to the arrow section, just be aware that the number of stitches that you end up with each time as you come to the corner here, or the center of the shawl, that might vary a little bit. So you just need to be careful that each side mirrors the other. Okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then I'll show you what I have. Okay, this is my shawl after working 46 rows of the pattern. Now remember, you can work any number of these rows that you prefer, from smallest to largest. And I'll give you a better view of this at the end of the video. But I'm very happy with the way the colors are coming together. Now I am ready to work the picot shell ending, and I'll show you how to do that right now. I've gone ahead and changed to my solid color yarn. I am working now with the front side facing, and we're going to work our final row. I'm going to chain 1, single crochet in that very first stitch. Now I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and I'm going to work 4 double crochets, and then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to slip stitch in that first of the 3 chains to form a picot, and then I'm going to work 4 more double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And once I've done that, I'm going to skip 2, 1, 2, single crochet in that next space. I'm going to repeat that until I get to the chain 2 corner. Skip 2. We're going to work 4 double crochets, and once we do that, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to work a slip stitch in that first of the 3 chains, and then 4 more double crochets. Skip 2 and single crochet in that next space. And let's take a pause and show you what this is going to look like. So this is the way the shell picot edging will look across the bottom there. So I'm going to go ahead and work to the corner, and then I'll show you what to do once you get to the chain 2 corner. Now after working this all the way to the chain 2 corner, I just have 1 stitch here to skip, and go ahead and work a shell with the picot in that chain 2 corner. Now in the instance where you may have less or more stitches to the chain 2 corner, don't worry about it. If you have to skip an extra stitch or 2, it's not going to be a problem. Alright, so I'm going to just complete this shell with picot in that chain 2 space, and just like we've been doing, since I only had to skip 1 stitch here, I'm just going to skip 1 stitch on this other side and then work that single crochet to anchor that. And that looks fairly nice, I think. So now we're going to skip 2, and we're just going to continue working that picot, or rather the shell with the picot across the other side of the shawl. And then let's go ahead and finish this. Chain 3, slip stitch in that first chain, and then 4 double crochets, and then we skip 2, 1, 2, and single crochet in that next stitch. So I just wanted to show you what this looks like going around that corner. After having worked these shell with the picots all the way across, I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches. I'm going to work that last single crochet in that turning chain, and then I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to turn to work in this direction across the row ends. And I'm generally going to work 2 single crochets per row end. Okay, so now before I go all the way across with my single crochets, I am going to hide some of these strands, and let me show you what I'm going to do. I've decided that I'm going to go ahead and leave the knots in, and I'm going to thread these threads one at a time into my yarn needle. I'm going to do this on the back side, and I am just going to carefully hide these within my work, and I will show you how to do this carefully. And with the wool, this will probably blend in very well. And depending on the fibers that you use, it can vary how, how this works. All right, so I'm just going to run that under several of the stitches like that, and I think that's going to be fine. And I'm going to clip it close, but not so close that it affects my stitches. And I'm going to run this one under the same color yarn stitches again. Going to the back side, I'm going to come up into the stitching here and around and run it under these stitches here. Now, if you want to use the Russian knot or the surgeon's knot, feel free. Of course, the Russian knot you would have had to have done already to join the yarns. And I am going to come out with a video soon explaining the differences of those. But even after understanding the pros and the cons, I think I'm just going to stay old school as long as I'm doing a project with a lot of a lot of crochet stitches, which does offer a lot more space to hide loose strands. And I just feel a lot more comfortable having nice tight knots and hiding the threads. I know I can just trim the yarn right here, but even if this knot is a special knot, I just don't trust it to stay there forever. So that's my defense on using knots in my work. So let me go ahead and finish hiding these knots and crocheting the single crochets. And what I'm going to do is working 2 single crochets in each row end. I'm going to crochet all the way across, and then I'm going to join with a slip stitch to that first single crochet that we started way over here with the Picot shells. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that, and then I will show you what I have when I'm completely done.
Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing new ways to make the Abigail scarf or shawl with me today. If you did, I would love to hear from you in the comment section. And if you're watching from the YouTube platform, please don't forget to subscribe and to hit like if you like this project. God bless. Bye-bye.